The tragic life of Yakov Dzhugashvili, the oldest son of Joseph Stalin. One would think that the oldest son of the most powerful man in all of Russia would have a pretty good upbringing. Not in this case. He had a pretty tragic upbringing, and where he would end up perishing in a Yahtzee prison camp. Yakov was born 1907, March 31st, to his parents, Joseph Dzhugashvili, later known as Joseph Stalin, and his mother, Kato Svinitsa. There's his mother, Kato Svinitsa. Stalin was deeply in love with this woman. Unfortunately, she became ill, contracted typhus, and passed away. This would break Stalin 7 different ways. He probably never really recovered from this. Seen here, crying at her funeral, over there on the far right here, he would remark, and I quote, "This creature softened my heart of stone. She died, and with her died my last warm feelings for humanity," end quote. That's rather foreshadowing of the man he would become afterwards. He was so broken, they had to pull his firearm from him because they thought he was going to use it on himself. And when they were burying her, he actually dove into the hole on top of the coffin and continued to cry. They had to pull him out of there to continue burying her. Now, one would think that a man would stick around to raise the last remnants of his wife. However, he would bail. The Russian secret police, the Okhrana, was all over him due to revolutionary and criminal activity, so he would bail. He would flee and leave his son in Georgia to be raised by his wife's sisters. So Yakov would not see his father again until he was 14 and be reunited in Moscow. Now, oddly enough, Stalin would not let his son take the last name Stalin. He had to stick to his Georgian roots with the name Dzhugashvili, unlike his siblings, Vasily and Svetlana, who got to keep the name Stalin. However, moving on, Dzhugashvili did get better. He joined the military, he rose the ranks, became a lieutenant, and then came the opportunities. Here comes Operation Barbarossa, his World War II. Sent to the front lines, he would be captured by the Germans at the Battle of Smolensk, much to the dismay of Joseph Stalin, who did not want his son to be captured alive. He would much prefer his son off himself instead of being captured. Order 227, not one step back. No one was to surrender to the Germans. Yakov Dzhugashvili did. Now, of course, the Germans knew they could use him for propaganda purposes. And he was complying with that. He was saying that the Red Army was ill-prepared for the war, that the British weren't doing anything, and he was praising the efficiency of Germans. So he was used well as a tool. But on top of that, people wanted to get their picture taken with Stalin's son. He was being paraded around, and he got riled up. He had this anxiety. He started fights with other prisoners or other POWs. He was having issues with that. And eventually, he just kind of wore out his welcome there with everybody and was sent to Sachsenhausen prison camp. Not exactly the place you want to be, primarily meant for POWs, but he was there with the rest of them. This is a labor work camp, a concentration camp. But there was hope. Almost 2 years later, during the Battle of Stalingrad, the Russians got themselves a nice little capture. Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus, the commander of the Eastern Front there. The Russians captured him, and, the Germans said, "Hey, we got a deal. Joseph Stalin, we got your son. Give us Friedrich Paulus back. We'll make it even." Joseph Stalin said, "Nah, I'm not trading a field marshal for a lieutenant. And besides, why would I trade for my son when all the Soviet POWs are my son?" Yakov, of course, didn't take this very well, knowing that his father not only abandoned him as a child, had an estranged upbringing, and just left him in that camp. So he, as a broken man, decided to end things. He threw himself into electrified fence, zapping himself till he was no more. And the German guards went ahead and finished him off with some lead. This was a broken man. Now, Joseph Stalin, after this, had a change of heart and was known to have stared at his photo for hours of his son, mourning him and regretting his actions towards his son, this callous nature. But that was how the end of Yakov Dzhugashvili.